The All-British final in the second round of Cincinnati is complete, and it was game, set and match Norrie. He defeats Norrie in 3 sets, and it really felt like he stole this match. It was definitely on Norrie's racket for large portions. But let's get into the reasons which led Norrie to the victory. My name's R32, welcome to Post-Match Breakdowns, and subscribe if you love tennis. I'm really close to 100 now, and I'm working really hard to get there, so it would really mean a lot. But let's get into it. And start off with replying to a comment that I got about what makes Norrie so effective. So I'm going to go through each point and kind of evaluate the impact that I thought it would have going into this match. So a big key for Norrie is that he is left-handed. And the margin shot in tennis is cross-court. The net is lower and you have a bigger amount of court to work with. And Cam's cross-court forehand goes into the righty backhand. And the backhand is usually a player's weaker ground stroke. So it kind of gives Cam an edge in the consistency basis. But Murray's backhand is much stronger than his forehand. And the kind of better way to beat Murray is to break down that forehand. So that kind of went against Cam's usual pattern of play. And he didn't really adapt to that, but he did get through this match. And the second thing, the disparity in his ground strokes. And I'll go through a graph here to show you what I mean. So this is Norrie, and basically, the further along the right of this graph you are, the more spin your forehand has, and the further up, the more spin your backhand has. And Norrie is here and here. So he's an extremely high topspin forehand and an extremely flat backhand, one of the largest disparities on the entire tour. And they're both very, very consistent. And he doesn't have the most firepower, but he rarely misses. And he's just got great variety afforded by this disparity in his ground strokes. Murray has very similar spins on both his shots, not overly spinny on either, but is also very consistent. So I expected extended rallies, which links to endurance, which I'll get onto in a little bit. But a weakness of players with a flat ground stroke is hitting the ball at a low contact point, below the height of the net, and not in an ideal strike zone. So spin makes it much easier to dip the ball up and over the net, and the lack of spin can lead to errors or floating attackable balls. You can be. What was your hot take from the match? What was your takeaway, Mum?
It was very stressful.
Correct. Right. Thank you, Mum. Sorry about that. Where was I? So, an example of when the ball is at a low contact point is when your opponent slices the ball. And Norrie possesses an excellent backhand slice, which I thought would be a big key today to neutralise Norrie's backhand and get on the front foot in the rallies. Now on to endurance. Norrie has, I'm not sure it's a condition or if he just naturally has it. And now on to endurance. And I'm not sure if it's a condition or not, but Norrie just has naturally bigger lungs than average. I think his lungs are 15% bigger than the average is what I heard. And that obviously helps with oxygen transfer to respiring tissues, which is essential for an athlete. And Norrie simply never gets tired. If there was a best of 10 set tournament, he still wouldn't get tired. If he went 10 sets every round, he is just so physically strong. And he's also much, much younger than Murray. So he had a real edge there. And Murray just came off the back of a very, very grueling 3-set thriller against Stan the Man Wawrinka. And he suffered cramps in that match, and he did today, which we will get onto. But Murray is an exceptional athlete, and he does work very hard, but he was physically compromised in this match somewhat. And he definitely struggled when the match got physical. Especially if both have such a defensive style. Even though both of them actually played very, very good front foot tennis today, I thought that the endurance factor would wear down Murray much more than Norrie, which it did. And now onto the last thing that makes Norrie great. Obviously, there are many things, but I'm just highlighting the key ones, is his mental strength. The miles per hour on his serve go up when he's break point down. He really goes after it. He returns aggressively, and he never lets big moments get to him. And he was so clutch today. Both are mentally strong. But as I said, Norrie really goes after it, and especially on the big moments in the return. Aggressive returners who take time away from Murray can really disturb him, like Fritz did a couple of weeks ago, and they can gain an upper hand in his service games. But I wasn't sure if Norrie had big enough weapons to truly rattle Murray. And also, I didn't think Norrie had the big enough weapons to really rattle Norrie either. God, it's so confusing, isn't it? Norrie, Norrie, God. Anyway, I felt it'd be like a real war of attrition and endurance, and the question was who could outlast each other. Norrie led the head-to-head, but Norrie was definitely the favourite heading into this match. So how do these factors affect the match? I will get into them when applicable. But let's start off with Norrie's aggression. If you saw my last video about Norrie versus Wawrinka, a key was Norrie's forehand and depth, and the power and aggression he found on that wing. He'd really dialed it up in this match and was up 8 miles an hour in his forehand than he was against Stan by 2-3 in the first set. Norrie had a very, very clear game plan in the first set especially, trying to shorten points and play first strike tennis. He did not want it to become physical, and Norrie did. But to do with this first strike tennis, Norrie also served very, very well. He had lots and lots of unreturned serves and dictated points behind his serve. He was getting to the net often and found decent success there with a slice approach to Norrie's backhand, keeping the ball low, that contact point that I was talking about. Norrie also went for his returns a lot. He's really trying to be aggressive in every aspect of his game and get on the front foot as early as possible. And these were all early signs that his game plan was a good one. He just needed to implement it well, and Norrie got his chances. He was generating break points, which eventually became too much for Norrie. He was saving them so well and winning service games from really high pressure positions from love 30 and 40-15 down and things like that. But Norrie, with a superb cross-court backhand pass, sealed the break for a 5-3 lead and a chance to serve out the first set, which he did with some very, very clutch serving. And for the first set and the match as a whole, Norrie was the better player. But in the first set, 70% of his first serves were unreturned. So maintaining a high first serve percentage was key heading into the second set. But Norrie's all-round game was just being so effective, and Norrie needed to raise his level if he wanted to stay competitive. So going through those keys which make Norrie good again, I'll assess the impact and what they had. So him being left-handed, in the first set, Norrie won those cross-court battles, both of them really. And the disparity in ground strokes didn't affect Norrie at all with the variety. And the endurance, Norrie wasn't letting the match get physical. He was being so aggressive and keeping the points short. And mentally, Norrie just wasn't quite in it. Even though he saved quite a few break points, he just wasn't as dialed in as Norrie was. So every factor that makes Norrie a great player wasn't helping him or present in that first set. And he needed to up his level and respond, which he did. All top players will do that when they're against the wall, and that's why they're top players. So heading into the second set, Norrie had an extremely significant hold to take a 1-love lead. A massive, massive key for the whole match. Norrie had a sitter volley, break point up, open court to work with, and it was obvious that he was already thinking about the next game. Yes, I've got the break, don't even need to think about it, and he pulls it wide. It was just heartbreaking. It was such a well-constructed point by Norrie up to that point as well, and such a giveaway for Norrie. It was unbelievable. And that could have been a huge moment, it was, but what I mean was that could have left a lot of scarring for Norrie, making him lose his focus. But he was very mentally strong and followed it up with a love hold. And as I said, Norrie did raise his level. So after that initial scare, he played much more aggressively, which is precisely what he needed to do. And particularly on the return, Norrie was very smart. He stepped back. He gave himself more time to return Norrie's exceptional serving, and he took bigger, more attacking swings at the ball. And I was actually really impressed with Norrie throughout the whole match. Gutted that he's lost, but his whole body language, it was the most positive I've ever seen it at that 1-2 and 2-all game, especially that he should have already been up a break or two as the set went on. He was really psyching himself up, saying, "Come on, Andy, and let's go." It felt like usual Andy would have been so frustrated, but he managed to keep a lid on it. And he was just putting so much pressure on Norrie in that 2-2 game. It was a love 30 hole, but still Norrie climbed out of it and held. I don't know what the record is for coming back from love 30 and holding, but Norrie must have had the record in this one. Norrie did not take his chances well, and Norrie was so clutch under pressure. And there's a real risk for Norrie that Cam would grow into the match and keep raising his level if he wasn't careful and he didn't start doing some real damage. As I said, it felt like Norrie should already have been up a break or two, but it was still on serve with a 2-3 changeover. And momentum was shifting towards Norrie, as Andy had nothing to show for all his efforts in the second set. Norrie saved 2 break points in the 2-3 game from 40-15 up, so just a great hustle from Norrie. And the second break point he saved was a second serve on the line, just such fine margins. And it was looking quite positive for Andy because Norrie was having some uncharacteristic tetchy misses, missing 3 key returns in that game. And even when Norrie wasn't playing his best, he hardly found a first serve in that game. He still found a way through. But the momentum was certainly shifting towards Norrie, and he was building more and more pressure in Norrie's service games, constructing the points so much better and with great returns. And he broke with superb play for a 5-3 lead. Norrie got it to love 40 as Norrie served the second set, but Norrie was simply too good from there on, apart from one missed return by Norrie, but Norrie played excellently and took the second set 6-3. It was now 1 set all and momentum was fully with Norrie. Those early misses in the second set must have been haunting Norrie. I can't imagine how he's feeling inside. So into the third set, it was clear that Norrie had an emotional letdown, but he soon got over it. He really started to look taxed as well. The physicality and the length of the match kept increasing, and so too did his fatigue. But he did have such good court IQ, and from love 30 down himself in his opening service game, he managed to claw his way out, and that seemed to fire him up again. He was competing so well, but more importantly than ever, he needed to have a fast start and set the tone. And once again, this is the theme of the match, Norrie got his chances and Norrie did not take those chances. At the 2-3 game, he got 2 breakpoint opportunities and missed both returns. Both second serve returns, 1 long and 1 into the net. 2 massive misses at a critical stage of the match, and he did not make Norrie earn it at all. Unforced errors, and they weren't particularly great second serves either, if I'm being honest. He then got a third break point. It was in the rally. He had made the first serve return, and a forehand was just sitting there in the service box. He had open court to work with, similar to that volley he missed in the opening game of the second, and he tanked it. He tanked it into the net. Another breakpoint missed. He was 2 of 11 in the match, breakpoints 1, and these huge moments just kept slipping away from him. He had so many chances in the second set and had even more going into the third set, and he just could not convert when it mattered most. Just such painful mistakes. If I'm being honest, he should have won this match in 2 pretty straightforward sets. He was the better player for 95% of the match, but that 5% where he wasn't the better player was at breakpoint up. But now heading into the business end of this third set, the question was how many more chances was each player going to get? And with the momentum swinging in Norrie's favour once again, it was looking very nervous for Norrie. But Norrie was definitely playing better in this third set compared to the second set. And even though he couldn't convert, he was putting loads of pressure on Norrie. And that was because of his forehand. In the first set, he averaged a massive 80 miles an hour. And then in the second set, he lost it a little bit and dropped to 72. But then in the third set, he started playing better again because he raised it to 76. He was just doing much more damage in the rallies and keeping Norrie at bay much better than he did in the second. And then absolute heartbreak. Just when Norrie seemed to be making moves and really doing damage again, disaster. His cramps came back, his serve speed dropped, and his footwork suffered, especially on his backhand side. And Cam, to his credit, he smelt blood and doubled down, hitting to the backhand. A backhand error gave Norrie game point, and a double fault gave Norrie the chance to serve out the match for a place in the next round. Just like against Stan, Norrie saw the physio, got some treatment, and came out swinging, but 1 match point was all Cam needed. In the end, the physicality came back to haunt him. Andy was the better player in this match. He just did not convert anywhere near as well as he should have done. And I'll say it again, he should have won this match in 2 sets. Absolute heartbreak for Andy. But it was a lovely, lovely handshake at the end of the match, smiling, laughing. And it was a brilliant contest. Real edge of your seat stuff, especially if you were a Norrie fan. But overall, Norrie's mental strength and fight got him over the line. and his supreme physicality. And he is now into the round of 16. But now to Norrie. I am absolutely gutted for Norrie. He was right there with the British #1, the 11th best player in the world, and he should have won. Even in this defeat, he shouldn't be too disappointed. Yes, he should have won. That's obviously a terrible situation to be in, but he's still competing fantastically well. And I can't lie, you can probably tell by how much I'm talking about him, but Norrie is my favourite player. And I will tell you what, it is hard to have your favourite player be 35-year-old and have a metal hip. It's so difficult sometimes because I want him to win so bad, and he wants to win so bad, but his mind is willing, but his body just simply isn't up to it, especially in these conditions with the extremely hot weather. I want him to really win another title before he hangs up the racket, and that would be incredible. But I want him to get these deep runs as well. And matches like these give me hope. He played fantastically today, and so did Norrie. But that wraps up my analysis. A lot of work goes into these videos, so subscribing would mean the world. I've been Henry2. Thank you for watching, and have a great one, guys.